Hey guys, I'm Rachel Castile and welcome to Typology Corner. Today I'm starting a series on the OP types. So this is going to be looking at, like the MBTI 16 types, then expanded into the 32 types, which I'm going to cover per video, the standard and the jumper version of each type. So today I'm starting with ESTP. This is my type, and how I'm going to lay this out, I'm going to do categories by the human needs. So I'm going to run through the EPs and then the IJs and then the EJs and then the IP type. So also that's the observers and then into the deciders. So I'm going to work my way through the 16 types, but within those videos, you'll get to see the variations of that slight difference of choosing a different savior function, whether it be a different decider that is your go-to or a different observer that's your go-to, depending on what category we're looking at. So for the ESTP, we've got two sets. We've got the SETI standard ESTP, then we have the SEFE type, who is jumping their TI and prioritizing extroverted feeling types of decisions still. So your jumper type is going to be more extroverted. They're going to live in their extroverted world a lot more, because they are factoring people in order to make their decisions more often than they are being in touch with their personal identity process, the introverted thinking, making decisions on their own reasons. So just to get into that a little bit more, I've got a handout here just kind of showing these functions laid out, what it looks like, what functions are saviors, which ones are demons. So let's get into just the standard type up here. So as a standard type, that is the first two functions being saviors, which makes the bottom two demons here. So the ESTP is choosing extroverted sensing as the dominant process. That's what makes them an ESTP. That just gathering in facts, gathering in information. They start with an openness to the world around them. They have, they don't have a particular like criteria on taking in information. They are just sifting through stuff constantly. They're sifting through the facts of the situation, the facts of their life experiences. Extroverted sensing as a dominant process makes an ESTP very prone to wanting to encounter new things, to have new experiences. ESTPs are a gather type primarily. That is the human need that they're most attuned to. And so yeah, they really like new things, new food, new experiences, traveling. They like new interactions, new people, new, just something that they don't already have in their pre-existing known information NI box. And as you can see, NI is an inferior process. So they're choosing extroverted sensing way more often. That's something these types have in common, is that choosing extroverted sensing with that inferior introverted intuition. So as you can see in both of these types, the introverted intuition is a demon because the extroverted sensing is that primary savior function. So, yeah, more traits about the extroverted sensing. What else can I say about it? That novelty seeking keeps, there's like a joy around being stimulated in that way. So, surprises can be something that they love, something new that is, likable to them, or something that they enjoy, or something, I would almost say it's more interesting. It's piquing that interest. It's stimulating that process that wants something new in the moment. They both have that in common. So moving on, introverted thinking is the dominant decider for the standard SETI type. So we've got this as a savior here. TI as a savior in the ESTP makes them very individualistic thinkers, that they very much are navigating life by what personally what personally makes sense to them. So, yeah, just to get into that, like I am an ESTP, and like I pretty much feel that I need to go through whatever thought process myself and really chew on it and think about something, independent of the people around me, make sense of it, ask the questions I need to ask to get even more clarity so that my introverted thinking gets more laid out so that I can like navigate, okay, what is my conclusion on this? What are my reasons that work for me? I personally am a standard ESTP type. So I put a lot of time into knowing where I stand on something, knowing my own beliefs, knowing my own, making a decision as a result of my own introspection on a topic, on whatever it is, and making sense of my world and living according to that logic, to that perspective. So that's what it looks like in me. As I think of more examples, I'll, say more, but as for now, that is TI for, in a standard ESTP type. And then the third function of the ESTP is the extroverted feeling. This is being in tune with the extroverted spectrum of the tribe, of their values, what they like, what they dislike, being aware of just, what matters to other people, I think is the best way to say it. And your ESTP standard type is very much aware of that stuff, but whenever looking on like the axis of the TI or the FE, the standard type is more prone to make decisions and to stay true to their own introverted logic, their own personal reasons. But they are very attuned to the emotions of other people. Having that extroverted feeling makes us prone to, a couple of things. I had two things come to mind. Like extroverted feeling is an expressive function, needing to express your emotions out loud, needing to talk things out. The TI saver type is less inclined to do that, but it is very good for them to do that, to actually express themselves and, but also to be in touch with like other people's values and stuff, and to be aware of that more. But I would say the ESTP standard type is seeing those things. They are feeling the emotions of other people. They are, aware, I guess, socially aware of what's going on around them, but aren't making a decision on it as much in comparison to the TI. And then as a inferior process, the introverted intuition in the ESTP kind of manifests like it's somewhat of the end game for us to like know where we're going, to know our future, to know that all the things we're doing is adding up and, pointing us in a particular direction. But we have trouble with, staying on a particular path. Our extroverted sensing kind of jumps out. The novelty seeking of things, or getting bored with walking in one direction alone without being able to like chase the different things that pop up, or the new ideas we have, or the new things we want to talk about. It can be hard to stay on one path, moving toward it point by point by point, So it's definitely a growth point for ESTPs to actually do that more often and to stay true to an endpoint goal and find ways to still kind of stimulate that SE without throwing off, walking in a particular direction and like meeting those bigger life goals, instead of just like momentary gratification in a sense of like changing course because, ooh, I saw something new. I want to do something new, I'm tired of this job and I want to do something different or whatever, People with introverted intuition higher up can find it easier to stay true to the path, So yeah, that's what the standard type looks like. So just for contrast, we'll get into the extroverted sensing and extroverted feeling savior type. So I just want to reiterate that what Dave and Shane have done with the OP types and expanding into the jumper types is extremely valuable, because yes, I can articulate the ESTP the way I am, but not every ESTP is wired like me. They, there are some ESTPs who are much more extroverted than kind of ambivert-ish, like the ESTP like me, who has a savior introverted process as a second function. There are ones who have both of the extroverted processes as saviors, and the introverted ones here are the demon processes, the ones that, they're not choosing as often. So what this looks like, there's a couple things I can highlight about it. And again, I'm sharing just kind of off the cuff. And I'm sure, really talking with a person of this type, there's a lot more to explore. But I'm kind of going from the theory of the cognitive functions and kind of elaborating from that viewpoint a bit. So, but having that extroverted feeling as a savior would just be, them being much more expressive emotionally, much more inclined to talk things out with people. They're way out there with the tribe more that, than in their head determining where they land on any given thing as much. They're factoring in the people. They're like, oh, I know what my friends think about this. I know what Sally thinks about it. I know what Joe thinks about it. I know what Alan thinks about it. I know what Corey thinks about it. I know what all of them, how they feel on this. Like, I've heard where they land on this. If this would offend Alan, but not so much Corey, or they're just aware of where the tribe lands on a spectrum, and they're making decisions that doesn't rock any boats as much. They're in tune with the people. It feels more natural to them to, to accommodate people, to create harmony with people. So both ESTPs, your standard and your jumper, has an awareness because they each have this function. But your jumper type is actively making decisions. That's their go-to decision maker. When you look at this, like, this is saying a particular observer, a particular decider. When you look at all of the types, they're choosing a particular observer and a particular decider. And what we're exploring here is, what does that look like when those are the saviors of that type, So this, at its core level, is just saying most times out of the 4 types of decisions, they don't have the FI or the TE, so they're on the same axis as this one up here. That's what makes them ESTPs. But this is their go-to one. They are aware of the tribe values and making decisions on it. They're just much more in that extroverted space. They're expressing, they're there, they're getting feedback. They're more inclined to want validation. And even as a standard ESTP, like, I have that there, like, but I think the difference is, like, it gets filtered down, like, by the TI. Since I am TI first, it's like the people who are in my TI criteria, like, I've filtered down. It's like I want the feedback from, like, maybe 2 or 3 people in my life, not the whole tribe, not everybody. I'm not accommodating all of society or whatever that group, the whole family, the whole group, the whole community, or whatever. TI is like, I've been making decisions based on my own reasons all along, and then I've got my reasons for wanting validation from a couple of people, maybe, my husband, I want his feedback, I want affirmation, or, so it's still there. Like, the extroverted feeling is a strong function in the ESTP. But just down here, they're much more in touch with the tribe. They're much more validation seeking, because it requires getting feedback if you're making a decision based on the other people. If you don't know where they land on something, then how can you make a decision that works for, for the whole collective? They have to be factored in. And then, a person who is majoring on that all of the time, that's the go-to, like, muscle that they're using. They're not as much making decisions on their personal reasons, because that could create conflict with the tribe potentially, if this is what you care about most, So yeah, it's a very real thing of this type is going to look different than this type. They're going to look maybe a little more J-like in a sense, having that like EJ-ness about them, even though they're an EP type. And your standard's going to be like the EP because they're doing these two, and these other are more, the tribe is more, you know, it's not a decisive extroverted sort of thing. It's just internal decisiveness and just kind of living true to it. They're not as emotionally expressive. They're not as, you know, accommodating, I guess. They just kind of stay true to their own way a bit and navigate from there. So yeah, it's think of it as like an order of operation of preferences. So I guess as somewhat of a closing point on this is to get into personal growth. Again, what you choose as a savior determines what the demons are. It's the ones you're not choosing because you chose the other ones. And, you know, as a result of that, that's where you're weak. That's where you're not really developing much. That's kind of where I'll call vulnerability. It's like, you know, if you get hit in those areas that you're not working on, that's your weakness. That's where you can grow and become more balanced. So, not, you know, one isn't better than the other. It's just that's the chosen strength. That's where they're really gifted, you know. So the other side is where, you know, they can put some time in and get stronger there, and they'll be more balanced. So even thinking about, I got more things coming to mind, like professions, you know, a type like this could really become a specialist in something and get really good at it, and they just kind of doing their own thing, you know. And this side, you know, they're way aware of the social spectrum. They're super in the moment. They see what's going on now. They're collecting all the data about the now. And that combined with extroverted feeling, they can be super aware of the trends, super aware of what's popular, of the market. And like, because of that, they can really, you know, be really good at business because this person might be really good at creating a really good, thorough product, but this one will be better at marketing the product, right? Because they're in tune with the people, you know, they're in tune with the needs of the people. So they know how to market the product to the people because they're aware of the people. This type would be more innately good at business because the sales part of business, I guess. But this side too, they're both ESTPs. So when you look at it, like what these functions give you, they all have access to the gifts of this function, of this type, you know. And it just kind of points out where the growth path is. It's like, okay, they could start to learn to get more in touch with their own personal reasons, where what they believe, their personal truths, and it will guide maybe what market they appeal to, what market they want to do business in. I think the business example works pretty well, especially for the ESTP. That's kind of how we're wired. But yeah, as they can, you know, understand where they want to go, what kind of future they want, and their personal reasons, what really lands in their box of what, you know, is actually like a true deciding factor for them. If they can know, no, this matters to me, this other thing not so much. They narrow down, okay, this is a criteria I want in something, you know, and this is where I want to go. You know, that'll help them kind of not just be aware of the current market, but like to know what market they even want to go into. And then these functions are totally still a strength. They can study that market really well and be more on target in a balanced way that honors them and the collective, and not just purely serving the collective and just doing whatever the trends are, dressing like everybody else, talking like everybody else, trying to stay in the in crowd and be popular alone. They know who they are and then still know how to serve people with that keen awareness of the extroverted spectrum. This type has a balance of the extroverted spectrum and the introverted, but you know, it's what type. So they're having to work on expressing themselves more to the tribe, accommodating the tribe a little bit more, seeing, you know, are they being too way off in their own world and like not even seeing the market at all, I guess is a way to see it. And and still it's a demon in being able to like get on a path and stay on a path, and um to not just be paranoid. That's something about the introverted intuition in an inferior place. It can be like paranoia about the future. Something I have kind of struggled with is like I can get overwhelmed easily if I'm working on a lot of things that's heading in a particular, direction I want to go in. I've got multiple goals, and then I start feeling like I'm not making progress. I'm not making progress. And it can feel like, how do I get moving again? Like, or is me working on this one thing over here causing me to not move forward in these other things I'm wanting to do? And then it can be, it can cause anxiety in me if I'm like, man, I haven't done anything in this other area for like 2-3 weeks. Can I ever get that moving? Or I feel like I got to work on everything and push everything forward today, or it's not moving at all. Or like, it's that not being able to see the future that well, and thinking and not seeing like my progress or something. And like, trying to give some examples of like seeing incorrect futures, not seeing how all the things I'm doing is actually getting me to where I want to be. And like the more I can get that clear, the more at rest I can be, the more the anxiety will go down. EP types are prone to anxiety in their own ways. Um, but yeah, uh, what else can I say about that? So something that's helping me, like, also my husband is extrovert, or no, he leads with introverted intuition. He's an INTJ. So like seeing somebody with a gifting that like the future is very obvious. There's not anxiety about the future. It's helpful to be around a type. It can be kind of humbling to be around somebody that it's super easy what's super not seen for me, I guess. But it's super good for growth to be around people who are strong where you're weak. But yeah, so what else can I say about that? Um like taking a break in one area and really going on it, getting ahead in another area will leave time in the future to then devote time to the area that I had a lot of anxiety about. Like that can cause me anxiety to be like, wait, you mean I'm not making progress, and I gotta give it's I'm all over the place. So in area A, I'm not making progress, but if I go in on B right now and like really get ahead in it, that'll set up a whole month I'm free to work on area A. And that like being able to see like, oh wait, zoom out, don't panic, you really are moving forward. Like you can actually see the whole picture. I'm like, oh whoa, I was trying to incorporate everything, all 5 of these goals, and make time blocks. I need to work on this today, work on each one of these things at different times throughout the day, but I feel so split, blah blah blah. I think that's a good example of what it can look like, needing to get clarity in NI, and not having clarity in NI can create anxiety for an SE dominant person who's really just in the moment, who wants to be impactful, who wants to hit stuff, who wants to move stuff forward in a sense, because I'm just in the moment, and it's either it changed or it didn't change, or, you know, um, yeah, what else can I say? Like, so just going back to all the functions, SE dominance is just in the moment, it's present. Think of NI, it's the future, it's the patterns, it's seeing the interconnections between all the data that we've been collecting as dominant gatherers. Um, yeah, the patterns for an ESTP is developing naturally, unconsciously, in the midst of collecting tons of information. That SE is just pulling in and gathering new information all the time, more and more information, more and more facts, more and more experiences, and from lots and lots of evidence, a pattern emerges. And yeah, and the more we can get in touch with bigger patterns, we can start going somewhere and not only chasing our whims and not really going anywhere long term, not really heading in a new direction, but just kind of appeasing that extroverted sensing in the moment. That's a weakness of the addiction of being a person who leads with extroverted sensing. And I think I articulated the middle part. So yeah, the difference between the jumper and the standard is which decider is prioritized, the people or the self, identity or the tribe. And this is the variety of the two types of ESTPs. So yeah, guys, that's basically it for this video. If you got value out of this, go and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for new content. I'm gonna continue to do this OP type series and just articulate the 32 types and kind of see what it's like to mix and match all of these different savior functions that make up the types. It's very interesting, and I'm gonna keep doing it from this place of the cognitive functions and just to see the inner workings of how, what makes us the way we are. So, again, thank you for stopping by the channel. I appreciate your time, and I'm glad to have you here, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.